What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. And in lieu of the announcement by People Can Fly Studios on their Twitter account, as well as a related Reddit post about a potential patch coming to the game tomorrow that essentially addresses the damage mitigation issues, or lack thereof rather, of damage mitigation in the game. And it coincidentally being the 50th day, I suppose, anniversary of Outriders being out, I thought we could discuss my personal sort of top 10 wish list of things that I'd love added to the game, whether it is features or changes that I'd like made. Not only do I think, obviously, this would be very pleasing to me as a player of the game that actually still plays the game, but I do think that a large amount of these items being done or introduced to the game would actually bring quite a few players back to the game. At least that is my assumption, or rather my theory, let's put it that way. Now, firstly, if you don't know what I'm talking about, yesterday People Can Fly Studios tweeted, as well as had a post created on Reddit, which essentially says that they are hoping to release a patch on Thursday, the 20th of May. It's in the final stages of testing, so to speak. And basically this patch will address additional crash fixes and will also add some, what they're referring to as additional telemetry, which will help them diagnose specific outstanding sign-in issues. I'm assuming from, certain platforms like, Xbox or so. And then further on, they also say that they're still working on the player appreciation package. Now, mostly this fix, as they say in the note here, is meant to resolve the damage mitigation issue, both in the multiplayer side of the game as well as on the single player side of the game, which people are currently experiencing. So great. So let's hold thumbs for that, and let's see what comes from that tomorrow. But as I said, the subject of this particular video is in actual fact discussing 10 features or changes that I would like to see in the game. And if that happens, again, like I said, it not only would please me, obviously, but I think that it would facilitate a large amount of players returning to the game, because it could address some of the things that drove these players away in the first place. Now, my list of 10, I try to sort of structure them from most likely to happen or largest chance of happening to least likely to happen. And at the same time, I also having obviously no idea of how this game is built and how the modules snap together and how easy it is for them to make changes, what I also did is I tried to sort of create a list to also respect how easy it would be for them, again, in my view, to introduce this change to, how difficult. So without any further ado, this is my list of 10, and we'll start off with the first one being that I would like a loot refresh, more specifically a legendary refresh on Tiago, perhaps weekly, or if they must, monthly, something like that. It would add a Zur from Destiny kind of flavor to the game. And I know personally from my experience in Destiny, for the months that I took off from Destiny, if I was still looking for certain items or so, I would still make a point of logging into Destiny and checking what Zur's inventory was over the weekend. And sometimes I'd actually end up playing a little bit as well. But it's definitely, at the least, from a player showing up perspective, a way that you can get people to come back to the game and just at least check it out for a little bit. But it's definitely going to help people that have 1 or 2 or 3 legendaries or items which have eluded them in multiple hundreds of hours of farming, and just give another potential avenue to actually obtain that loot. I'm looking at you, Head to the Desert, you bastard. Okay, then number 2, as I have it, is a bigger stash. So when you are playing one character, I think the stash is sufficient, possibly even when you're playing 2. But now that I'm running into the situation where I have multiple level 30s, the stash just kind of becomes woefully inadequate. This is a loot-driven game, so you're constantly going to be picking up items. And if you are trying to keep something for multiple builds, and multiple within just one character, that can already eat up quite a little bit of space. But if you have multiple characters of different kinds, so let's say you have one of each, then suddenly this stash space is not nearly enough. The 100 items in there just is not sufficient, and a bigger stash would be pretty cool and would be really, really helpful, especially for us hoarders in the game. The third item, or the third thing on the list would be the locking or the favoriting of items in your inventory. I am lucky because I'm so anal about checking this before I dismantle and everything like that, that I have not accidentally dismantled something yet. But the game has these lovely features where you can essentially, choose everything of a certain rarity and, dismantle it out of your inventory at once or sell it out of your inventory at once. And unfortunately, because you don't have a way to lock items that you want to keep or to favorite them so that they don't, get flagged by this all delete or all sell, kind of command, it means that you either have to always double check and sort of take the things out, or basically how I've resulted in doing it is just doing everything one at a time, just to make sure that I don't delete something. Now, this is further compounded by my previous point, and that is that because you have such a small stash, you tend to carry a lot of stuff on your characters because long since ago you filled up your stash. So this would definitely help just with that inventory management and just that additional security blanket of not accidentally deleting something. Now, I've read some horror stories of people deleting like guard roll items and all of that, so I can't imagine how frustrating that must be when it happens, especially because you don't have a buyback option in this game, or some way of, well, let's rather say an undelete or an undo option in this game. So yeah, it's a bit of a problem. The fourth item would be the ability to create loadouts. So again, you could potentially, let's use a Technomancer as an example. You could have a straight up bullet bill Technomancer that you have your character on by default, and you might decide, you know what, I'm going to try and go, middle path Technomancer, and I want to try and do something with Frost. I want to try to do something with Ice and with Frozen. So I want a completely different skill tree. I will have 5 different pieces of armor that I wear, and I'll probably use a different primary weapon. What would be cool, what would be nice is, because you're already carrying those items in your inventory, is to have just a toggleable. It doesn't have to be that you can do it in combat. I don't want any kind of abuse like that, anything like that. But that you're able to toggle a button which will automatically change your skills. It'll automatically change all your skill points where they've been assigned into, and it'll automatically change your gear. I think that's just an amazing feature to have in, and it would be really handy. So then the fifth item on the list is transmog. So a lot of these games like Destiny, I don't know if Division 2, but I suppose so. I don't think it's such a high priority, but definitely in games like Destiny 2. And just by the way, I know that I'm comparing Outriders to Destiny and to, other games as a service kind of games. But I want to be clear, it's not because I consider Outriders to be one of those games. I don't. I think Outriders is not the same as Destiny. I think in some cases it tries to be, but it isn't. But the point is, a lot of the players that play those games play Outriders. So they're going to start looking for similar, features. It's just nature. It's how it works. But transmog is one of those things. So the ability to take items that you've picked up already and take their appearance and put them on other items is like a whole subculture in these games. I mean, you have Fashion Destiny and, all of that, where people are literally trying to make the characters, you have some really low level items, but they aesthetically look very cool, and so you want to put them on, but the gear you end up wearing at level 50 because you want specific mods and, specific items on those gear and specific attributes on those gear end up making you look like a rodeo clown. But transmog would help you address that and basically just make the character look as cool as you want it to look. It's weird for me that in Outriders, and this is true for every single one of my characters so far, by the time you're in your 20s and 30s, that in terms of level, your character looks the way that you want them to look. They've got the head piece on you want, they've got the armor on you want, everything like that. Everything looks the way you want to look. But then by the time you're doing CT 15s and your character's like level 50, or, your gear is level 50, you look crappy. You look fucking ridiculous. So transmog would definitely be a pretty cool feature, and that's my number 5. My number 6 is, I just gotta go through my list here. So at the moment right now, how it works is if you want to get item level 50 or level 50 gear, whether it's guns, weapons, or like armor, you need to be doing CT 15s. I would like some kind of a mechanism where the CT 15 difficulty would still be able to operate in the open world, so that you could, for instance, do the bounty hunts and all of that at the CT level 15 difficulty, which is fine. I don't want to have an easier way to get, gear, level 50 gear, but have you be able to get that in the outside world as well, so that you don't just have to do CT 15 expeditions. There are a ton of expeditions, but the point is, after you've played this game for many hours, you kind of get tired of all of those expeditions. And if they were to bring this into the open world, then that would just create so many more areas where players could farm. They could pick their favorite places to farm, everything like that. And again, like I said, it's not that I want the monsters to be at the level that they are currently now out in the world. They can be increased in difficulty. They can be brought up to the quality of difficulty that you experience in a CT15 expedition, but then also just allow you to get the gear. I think the funny thing that happens right now is, if you go out into the world, there's some weird thing that sometimes happens with the level scaling and the downscaling, that even the monsters that you fight when you are world tier 15 out there are quite difficult to kill and have extremely large health pools, but they're still only dropping like gear level 42 items, which is weird. So yeah, it would be nice to just normalize that, and I think it would open up the game a lot more for people who are already like, shell shocked from having run, I don't know, 400 expeditions and not really getting the gear they want. Okay, then my item number 7 is something duplicate protection, but essentially what that means is, all too often you read about people, or you experience it yourself, that you farm legendaries and you are getting the same legendary over and over and over again. Now, I understand that this game uses a system where essentially you farm the mods off of gear, and sometimes those mods are actually far more important than the actual piece of gear, so the actual legendary that the mod is on. And I understand that. So I know that this system is not going to be an easy thing to implement, and that's why it's so deep into this list. But the idea would be that something has less of a chance of dropping if you have it already. So not no chance of dropping, but just less of a chance of dropping. That's all I'm saying. Because also often, and I mean, this is the thing, right? This is the meme. People are picking up cannonball pieces all the time, or they're picking up sidearms all the time. And by the way, both those cases are me. But the issue is that it's not just that it's cannonball pieces, but it'll be like 4 cannonball boots, which is weird. Out of all of those, that it would constantly roll the same thing is super strange. And most recently, in a stream that I was actually on, or that I was doing, players saw me get 2 daimyos in a row. They saw me get 2 imploders in a row, and that's literally within minutes of getting 2 different legendaries. So that's just weird that happens. With such a large pool of legendaries, one would almost say that it's impossible that it happens. But yet it does, and it doesn't just happen, sometimes it happens often. So some kind of duplicate protection would really go a long way to addressing that sort of thing. The 8th one, and my 3rd last item, would be to look at taking legendary sets, taking the sets that we have in the game, which currently have 3-piece bonuses, and introducing a 5-piece bonus to that. I definitely think it would make these sets, first of all, more viable and a lot more interesting, but it could also open things up for characters like Technomancers, for instance, which, if you're playing a bullet Technomancer, there's really no need for you to put any legendary piece on. Purple armor does the job more than enough. And so these characters, you kind of get locked into having to find like the right mix of, purple gear and everything like that to squeeze out, the tippy top or DPS that you want from that character. But I think 5-piece legendary sets, or rather the 5-piece set bonuses on legendary sets, if you wear it on every slot, would again increase the collectors of these armors to go looking for them. But also you could potentially make these like really powerful and make them really cool, because of course the effort required in actually getting all 5 pieces of this gear, which in some cases can take hundreds of hours at this point in time. So at least it would give you a point of trying to do it. The second last item is to unlock the mods on gear, and that's just as I say it. The point would be that at the moment right now, right, when you pick up gear, whether it is a weapon or a piece of armor, You can swap out one of the mods, and as soon as you swap out that mod, the other slot becomes locked and you cannot do anything with it. At the moment right now, players that have been playing for a while and have progressed into the end game quite deep, they are swimming in hundreds of thousands of drop pod resources, which is an end game resource in this game. Wouldn't it be cool if you could use those drop pod resources and make it a lot, make it 150,000 per unlock, or whatever, something like that. Make it that you can only do one a week. I don't know, whatever mechanism as a developer People Can Fly feel that they need to put in to not just let people abuse it, fine. But wouldn't it be cool as an option that you could pay a currency or something like that and you could open up that second slot? It would really, really drive the power fantasy of this game through the roof because of all the combinations that you could potentially make. And it would allow someone that had spent many, many, many hours in this game and had accumulated a large, legendary library and a large collection of mods to really build like a beast character, something crazy, something super strong that basically is worth the hours and hours of effort that they put into this. Again, this is not a multiplayer game. You're not going to go out killing other people with these characters and ruining other people's days. But it'll just really be this amazing thing where you can literally tailor the build, the character, the items to exactly what you want. Of course, there will be cookie cutter and best ones. But the other side of this coin is there will be really, really wacky and strange things that we could test, which we can't do right now because of just the luck and the sheer amount of fortune that needs to come your way to get exactly the right mix to set up the right mix of mod combinations to pull off something strange. The last item number 10, and this is just coming from me personally as a majority solo player. So by far the majority of my hours in this game have been played solo. I prefer playing this game solo, to be honest. It's just that kind of game for me. I know that a big drive of this game is co-op and is multiplayer driven, and that you have to co-op with other players, but I do enjoy the solo content. The benefit that you have with partnering up with someone else is that they can of course pick you up if you make a mistake or something like that. And I do know that some of the classes within their talent trees, or some of the characters within their talent trees, have abilities like Phoenix, which can bring them up after being down. But it would be cool if there was some kind of a mechanism that, for instance, once per expedition you could respawn yourself, or you could pick yourself up or something like that. So those are the top 10 items. Now you might be wondering why there are certain items not on this list, and I'm talking about things like, for instance, this damage mitigation issue, which is probably being solved by the patch tomorrow, hopefully. But I'm also talking about matchmaking issues and people getting kicked before they get the final loot in an expedition. And, for instance, being able to choose if you're looking what CT level you're looking for, and not just automatically being dumped into CT 15s the whole time. For instance, if you're an up and coming player and then forcing other players to carry you. I didn't include those items in this list because my personal feeling is features that are in the game and should be working as on the label and as said and as supposed to be working by the game, and those being lacking, I feel that a developer has a responsibility to us as consumers who have spent money on their product to bring those features to us. And that is the difference between those issues and the 10 items that I put on my list. The 10 items that I put on my list, People Can Fly don't owe us a thing. They don't owe us any of those items. That is a pure wish list from me, and things that I would enjoy in the game, and also things that I think, from having read Reddit and having looked at Twitter and having looked at other people's content on YouTube, I think other players would enjoy as well. But things like the matchmaking fixes that need to be done, and the damage mitigation issue that propped up after a patch from a couple of weeks ago, and people getting kicked from matches and people still not being able to actually play the game, People Can Fly owe either those people their money back, or they owe them to fix it so that they can actually enjoy the game. That's it for today, and that's the whole list and everything like that. Let me know in the comments down below what is on your top 10 list, which one of these items you like. If you've stopped playing with these items, with some of these things make you come back. Are you still playing? Are you playing less? Whatever. Let me know where you are with Outriders at the moment right now and how you feel. We also have a Discord right now, which when I say we, I mean this channel and its followers. This community that we have here, and this Discord link is in the description down below. This is not a Outriders themed Discord. It definitely has a little Outriders section in there for people that want to group up and do that sort of thing and play together in Outriders, but it's overall a game fueled sub and Discord where people can talk about anything game related and basically just build up a community. I think we just hit 60 members, so it's growing. We have a bunch of really awesome people on there, and you could be one of them. So go ahead and click the link and join us. Just be sure to check out the rules and everything like that, and of course I have to say that. But other than that, I think that's the whole thing. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. This is the kind of thing that I bring to this channel and that I like to share with you. And other than that, I just want you to have a great morning, a great afternoon, and a great evening wherever you are. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.